Hey folks, today we're going to do a character build and I'm going to center this around a race, and that race is the Plasmoid from Spelljammer. Now, even though this is going to be a character that I'm going to play in a Spelljammer campaign, I think any DM would be okay if you wanted to play this outside of Spelljammer, as a Plasmoid is an amorphous being that is typically an ooze. So if you were to be able to construct a backstory that included some type of arcane happening or some type of wizard experiment gone wrong, then you could have the birth of a plasmoid. So even though I'm doing this myself for a Spelljammer campaign, I think you could create this character outside of that. So we're going to begin our level 1 character build by taking a look at our Plasmoid race and how we're going to build around that. So let me introduce you to my Plasmoid Way of the Astral Self Monk, Jordy. So here we are on D&D Beyond with the Plasmoid race, and let's take a look at the traits. Again, these are amorphous beings, and they don't have a shape of their own, although they can make themselves look humanoid. But as you can see here, their creature type is actually an ooze. Their size, you can pick a medium or small type of a creature, and the walking speed is going to be 30 feet regardless. Now, the ability that we're going to build around is the Amorphous ability. You can squeeze through a space as narrow as 1 inch wide, provided you are wearing and carrying nothing. You have advantage on ability checks you make to initiate or escape a grapple. So looking at this, again, for my character in particular, I'm going to be playing Spelljammer, and I see this as Jordy LaForge. We're going to be having an engineer that can squeeze through a space as far as 1 inch wide. So I'm going to pick Tinkerer's tools somewhere down the line to make sure that Jordy can get through and repair this ship if need be. I've also recently been informed on the WallyDM Discord that there's a character like this on the Orville called Yaphet, who is an ooze, and I thought that was absolutely mind-blowing. I remember watching a few episodes of the Orville in the very first season, but I haven't watched it since. I should probably go back and watch that. So back to the Amorphous ability. Again, we're going to be able to squeeze through things 1 inch wide, but we're also going to pick some abilities that are going to help us grapple creatures. We're going to be fairly decent at doing that. Now, when we squeeze through a space that's 1 inch, we have to drop everything that we're carrying. Nothing can come with us. So that is one of the reasons why I chose the Way of the Astral Self Monk, is because we can use our unarmed melee attacks as weapons. So if we need to squeeze through a keyhole in a door and get on the other side, we're not going to be defenseless. We're going to have our hands, which are our pseudopods, or however you want to look at it, which are going to be our weapons. Now, along with the Plasmoid, we get dark vision out to 60 feet. We can hold our breath for up to 1 hour. That's extremely nice. And we have natural resistance to acid and poison damage. And we have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned. A nice little feature thrown in on top of that. And then finally, we have the Shape Self. As an action, you can reshape your body to give yourself a head, 1 or 2 arms, 1 or 2 legs, and makeshift hands and feet. Or you can revert to a limbless blob. While you have a human-like shape, you can wear clothing and armor made for a humanoid of your size. Now, of course, we're going to have the regular adventuring gear with backpacks and clothes and weapons and things of that nature. But if we need to squeeze through a tiny space that's only 1 inch wide, we can do so, and we're still going to be able to fight as a monk on the other side. We can go back and get our stuff later. Now, as a bonus action, we can extrude a pseudopod that is up to 6 inches wide and 10 feet long, or reabsorb it into our body. As part of the same bonus action, you can use this pseudopod to manipulate an object, open or close a door or container, or pick up or set down a tiny object. The pseudopod contains no sensory organs and can't attack, activate magic items, or lift more than 10 pounds. So it's like we have a third arm. I'm really interested in what you would do with that. I've heard some discussion of characters being able to hold a shield. I'm not sure if that's true, but be sure to leave a comment below. Let me know how you would use this pseudopod to your advantage if you were playing a Plasmoid. So let's switch over to the front end of D&D Beyond and take a look at our first level character sheet. So you can see here, Jordy has the ability scores set, and I have used the point buy system to put a 15 into dexterity and a 15 into wisdom. Now I use the +2 and the +1 modifier, putting the +2 into wisdom to set us up for a 4th level feat, and the +1 into dexterity. I also want to have a high constitution score, so I put a 14 into constitution, a 10 into charisma to make it average, and unfortunately, strength and intelligence are going to be our dump stats. Now, as you can see here, we already have an armor class of 16. This is our character without wearing armor, because as a monk, we get the unarmored bonus, which is our dexterity bonus, plus our wisdom modifier. So we have a +3 in dexterity, a +3 in wisdom, plus the 10 for natural armor is going to give us an armor class of 16. Now let's take a dive into our class features for being a monk. Taking a look at our proficiencies, we are proficient in simple weapons and short swords, and Jordy will definitely be carrying a short sword. We also get 2 skills and 1 set of tools. Now for the skills, I have chosen athletics, which may be a little bit strange, seeing that our strength score is only an 8, which is a -1 modifier. But when we get to 3rd level, we're going to get a monk feature for the Way of the Astral Self that's going to allow us to use our wisdom modifier for an athletics check. So that'll be fun to talk about when we get to that point. I have also chosen insight because insight is a good wisdom based skill. And since we're going to have a high wisdom score, I thought that was going to be a wise choice on my part. Then I also chose Tinker's Tools again because I'll be playing a Spelljammer campaign and I want this character to be like an engineer, being able to squeeze, because being a plasmoid, squeeze into those tough places that are hard to get, reform on the other side, maybe have someone hand some tools through and be able to work on things. Now, we've already talked about our unarmored defense, which is giving us an armor class of 16. And then we're also going to get the ability of martial arts. This is going to be our unarmed strike, and this is what monks are built around. Now, with regards to me building this monk class, be sure to leave any comments below if I do things wrong. I have not built a lot of monk characters before, and this is only my 2nd attempt at it. So hopefully I get things correct. Now, the way that martial arts works is we get these abilities as long as we're not wearing armor, as long as we're not wielding a shield, and as long as we are either using unarmed strikes or using only monk weapons. And the short sword is going to count as a monk weapon for us. So we can use our dexterity instead of strength for the attack and damage rolls of our unarmed strikes and our monk weapons. We can roll a d4 in place of the normal damage for our unarmed strike or monk weapon, and this will change as we advance in levels. And when we use an attack action with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon on our turn, we can make 1 unarmed strike as a bonus action. So if we come back over to our character sheet and look at the attack options for Jordy, you can see here that we have a short sword that is using our dexterity modifier. We have a +5 to hit, doing a d6 +3 of damage. Or we can use one of our unarmed strikes to, again, have a +5 to hit and a d4 +3 points of damage. Now, of course, we'll always be using the short sword, but again, if we slip through an area and we have to go without any of our gear, we still have this unarmed strike, which is going to do decent damage for us. Now, regardless of whether we're using a short sword or using our plasmoid gooey fists, we still get a bonus action, which is an unarmed strike, which is going to be +5 to hit and a d4 +3. So in combat, this character is going to be swinging a short sword for an action and punching with a pseudopod for the bonus action. Now, to finish up this level 1 character build, let's take a look at the background because it's going to play a very important role for this character. Now, what I have chosen is the Astral Drifter, and you can find this one in the Spelljammer book. Now, with the Astral Drifter, it is also going to give us a little bit of insight into what one D&D will look like in 2024, as it is going to give us a 1st level feat. Now, this one is assigned to this, so this is still well within the 5th edition D&D rules, especially if you are able to use the books from Spelljammer, which I am assuming we are able to because we're playing a plasmoid creature. Now, as far as an astral drifter, this character has been adrift amongst the astral sea for a very long time, and they had some type of a divine contact where they cross paths with a wandering deity. So, with that in mind, we get two skill proficiencies. The first one is religion, the second one is insight. But since I've already taken insight as one of my class skills, that means I get to select any other skill of my choosing, and I'm going to choose stealth. Now, I chose stealth because I am a plasmoid with the ability to squeeze through areas of an inch wide, and why not do that stealthily? I don't want to make any slurpy noises as a plasmoid, so I'm going to use my stealth to be able to squeeze into places. We get to choose two languages. I picked Celestial and Gith, and we have a divine contact. And again, this is a deity that we cross paths with. And I'm going to mispronounce this, I know, Farlangon, the god of horizons and travel, a neutral good deity. And that's how I'm going to go with Jordy. Jordy is this plasmoid creature that just wants to see the world, hence the travel on a spelljamming ship. Now, one of the main reasons that I am choosing the Astral Drifter background is because under our Divine Contact, we gain the Magic Initiate feat from the player's handbook and must choose Cleric for that feat. Again, we cross paths with the deity, and now we have a couple or a handful of Cleric spells that we're able to cast. And the reason that I want those spells is because of the Spell Jamming Helm. So this is a wondrous rare item that is on a ship, and it requires attunement by a spellcaster. So if you're going to be playing Spelljammer, and with the 5th edition Spelljammer rules, if you want to be able to pilot the Spelljammer, then you need to be a spellcaster, and having the Magic Initiate feat is going to make this character a spellcaster, even in the limited form that it is. So with the Magic Initiate feat, Cleric, I get to choose 2 cantrips and 1 first level spell. The first cantrip that I chose was Guidance. This is one of my all-time favorite cantrips in the game, regardless of what character class I'm building, and we get to add a d4 to an ability check. Now, I'm really liking the skills with regards to stealth and athletics for our plasmoid, so in addition to those checks, we can add guidance to that and get that extra d4. We can also use this on other characters if we need to. And I think this may also work with our Tinkerer's tool, so I'll have to check on that. The second cantrip that I chose is Toll the Dead. Now, I wanted to have a ranged attack when I don't have any of my equipment. Again, if we're going to squeeze through an area, we're unable to take anything with us. It's just going to be our ooze-like form that goes through and arrives on the other side. And as far as melee attacks go, we have our unarmed attacks with our pseudopods, but now we also have a ranged attack with the Toll the Dead cantrip, and this reaches out to 60 feet. And then finally, since we are going to be a melee combat type of a character, I chose Shield of Faith. Now, this does require concentration. It does last up to 10 minutes, but as long as we're able to hold that concentration, we can have a +2 bonus to our armor class. So at first level, we're going to get 1 use of this per day, and that would make our armor class 18 for as long as we hold our concentration. So that's our Plasmoid Monk Jordy at level 1. Let's advance to level 2 and take a look at the new monk features that this character will obtain. So here we are back on D&D Beyond with our Plasmoid Monk Jordy. Jordy now has 17 hit points, and we have some new class features for Monk that we can take a look at. The first one is Dedicated Weapon, and this is a 2nd level Monk feature. This is an optional feature that was included in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything that reads as follows. You train yourself to use a variety of weapons as Monk weapons, and this is not just simple melee weapons and short swords. When you finish a short or a long rest, you can touch one weapon, focus your key on it, and then count that weapon as a monk weapon until you use this feature again. Now, the criteria for that is the weapon must be a simple or martial weapon, you must be proficient with it, and it must lack the heavy and special properties. Now, I do mention this because it's an ability we have. Let me know in the comments section below if you would use this for this character build, but I don't think I would be using this at all for Jordy. So let's move on. The next monk ability we get is Ki. So starting at 2nd level, your training allows you to harness the mystical energy of Ki. Again, this is what a monk does. Your access to this energy is represented by a number of key points, and your monk level determines the amount of key points that you have. So at second level, we're going to have 2 key points. Now, some of the abilities that we get with our key is going to require the target to make a saving throw, and that's going to be calculated by an 8 plus our proficiency bonus, which at second level is +2, and plus our wisdom modifier, which at this current level is +3. So our key save DC at this point in time is a 13. Now, the 3 abilities that we can use with our key, the first one is Flurry of Blows. Immediately after you take the attack action on your turn, you can spend 1 key point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. Currently, we can only make 1, but this allows us to make 2. Patient Defense, you can spend 1 key point to take the dodge action as a bonus action on your turn. And the third one is Step of the Wind. You can spend 1 key point to take the disengage or dash action as a bonus action on your turn. And your jump distance is doubled for the turn. And as you can see here on D&D Beyond, we have 2 checkboxes indicating that we get 2 uses of these, but they are per short rest. So those will refill after a short rest. So let's take a look at our actions and bonus actions once again. As you can see here, we have our short sword and our unarmed strike. Both are the same as they were on first level. I've also taken the liberty of going ahead and adding our cantrips here. So we have our Toll the Dead, which is our ranged cantrip if we need to use that. And then as bonus actions, we have our Shield of Faith spell, which we can concentrate on, give us a bonus to armor class, our unarmed strike as a bonus action, or our Flurry of Blows, which is 2 unarmed strikes, but it's going to cost us a key point. Now, the final ability we're going to get as a second level monk is unarmored movement. As long as we're not wearing an armor or wielding a shield, then our movement speed is going to increase by 10. And as you can see here, we now have a walking speed of 40 feet. So that's going to do it for Jordy at level 2. Let's take the Way of the Astral Self and advance to level 3. So here we are on the back end of D&D Beyond, and we're leveling up Jordy, our Plasmoid monk. Now there's a few base monk abilities that we're going to get at level 3, but I want to focus on our monastic tradition, which is going to be the Astral Self, or the Way of the Astral Self. Now, the main ability that we're going to get from this tradition is the Arms of the Astral Self, which is going to read as follows. Your mastery of your key allows you to summon a portion of your Astral Self. As a bonus action, you can spend 1 key point to summon the Arms of your Astral Self. When you do so, each creature of your choice that you can see within 10 feet of you must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take force damage equal to 2 rolls of our martial arts die. So to break this down a little bit, our plasmoid-like creature is going to have 2 extra pseudopods or something along those lines. And when we activate this, anyone within 10 feet of our choosing is going to take 2d4 of damage unless they succeed on a dexterity saving throw. And again, that'll go off of our key save DC. So that's going to give them a DC 13. Now, in addition, while we have our Arms of the Astral Self, that's going to last for 10 minutes, and we gain the following abilities. You can use your Wisdom modifier in place of your Strength modifier when making strength checks and strength saving throws. So if you remember when I chose the Athletic skill, I was mentioning that we were going to use this with Wisdom instead of Strength. So now we have this in place. When we have our Astral Self or our Arms of the Astral Self activated, then we can use Wisdom for our athletics checks, which is a lot better because strength-based athletics is a -1 because of our strength, and the athletics with the Wisdom is a +3. Add in the proficiency bonus, we'll have a +5 to our athletics while we're in our astral form or using our Arms of the Astral Self. The second part of this, you can use the spectral arms to make unarmed strikes, which is going to be fantastic because we're going to concentrate a lot on that. So as our bonus action, if we're using short sword with one of our regular pseudopods or hands, then one of our astral arms or whatnot can punch down with the other one, and that is going to count as an unarmed strike. Now, when we make that unarmed strike with the astral arms, on our turn, we can our reach is an additional 5 feet greater. So we're going to have a 10-foot reach with that bonus action unarmed strike, or the main one if we use our astral arms. And then finally, the unarmed strikes you make with the arms can use your wisdom modifier in place of your strength or dexterity modifier for the attack and damage rolls, and their damage type is force. So think of it this way. We have our arms of the astral self, so we're a plasmoid in humanoid-like shape, whatnot. We have two of our regular arms. One's holding a short sword that we can attack with, and that's a range of 5 feet. But we also have these two astral arms that are coming off of our shoulders or somewhere weird, and they're going to have an additional 5 feet of range, so they can go out to 10 feet, and they can cause force damage. And not only that, but they go off of our wisdom modifier instead of strength and dexterity. So now let's take a look at our attack options now that we have the ability to activate our arms of the astral self. If you look at our normal actions, you can see we still have our short sword, our Toll the Dead, and our unarmed strike, but now we also have the arms of the astral self, and these have a 10-foot reach, so we can actually reach around someone and try to hit them, and that has a +5 to hit and a d4 +3, and once again, that is going to go off of our wisdom modifier, and only if we spend that one key point as a bonus action to activate those arms of the astral self. Now, if we look at our bonus actions, you can see here that the arms of the astral self summon is there. And again, that's going to be a dexterity 13 saving throw for all of those that are within 10 feet of our choosing. If they fail that, they'll take 2d4 of force damage. Now, of course, it's also worth noting too that if we hit with an unarmed strike with our arms of the astral self, it is force damage as opposed to a normal unarmed strike, which is bludgeoning damage. But now there's one other thing that we can do with our action that is not an attack, and that is we can try to grapple a creature. So if you look over to the left here, you see this A for advantage on our acrobatics and our athletics. If we were to click this A, it says to initiate or escape a grapple. So we have advantage on those rolls. And once again, that comes from our race, which is the plasmoid creature. And if we take a look down here, we have this athletics wisdom +5. So if we were to activate our arms of the astral self and we were to use our action to try to grapple a creature, we could roll that +5 athletics wisdom check with advantage while we're trying to grapple someone. Now, with regards to grappling and the arms of the astral self, I do believe that you can actually grapple someone with those arms, but you're not going to get that 10-foot reach or that extra 5 feet. As we see here on this third bullet point, when you make an unarmed strike with the arms on your turn, then your reach is extended 5 more feet. So if you're trying to grapple someone from 10 feet away, that is not a possibility. You have to be within 5 feet of them. So this is actually one of my favorite things about playing a Plasmoid Monk is we're able to have that advantage on our wisdom athletics checks to hold or initiate a grapple, or if we're trying to get away, which makes a lot of sense as an ooze creature. We can kind of just slime right out of their grasp. Now, I also want to mention, just for clarification, and again, if I'm wrong about this, please correct me in the comments below, but if you use your attack action to initiate a grapple, and a grapple or a shove are both different types of attack actions that you can use, you're still not going to be able to use a bonus action to unarmed strike. So you're not going to be able to grapple and then punch with your bonus action unarmed strike, because as we can read here, the bonus action or the unarmed strike says bonus action when you use the attack action with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon. And we're actually using it for a grapple. So do keep that in mind that you can't grapple and then use that unarmed strike. However, when we get to level 5, we should be able to use the attack action to grapple, and then the second attack action to hit with an unarmed strike, and follow that up with a bonus action to unarmed strike. So that should be a lot of fun, but we'll save that for when we get to 5th level. Now, one more thing before we move on from grappling that I do want to mention is this video was made in the year 2022, and the Unearthed Arcana just came out for 1D&D, which is set to release in 2024. And they're playing around with the idea of changing grappling, where instead of having a contested athletics check, between the grappler and the grapplee, then they're instead just going to have a saving throw to try to escape that grapple. Now that's not set in stone, but do keep that in mind if you're watching this video in the future and it is 2024 and beyond, to check with the grappling rules and see if a lot of these things that we're talking about still apply to this character. Now we have covered a lot of new abilities that we've gotten here at 3rd level with our Way of the Astral Self Monk, but there's still a couple of main level monk abilities that we're going to get at 3rd level, so I'd like to take a quick peek at those. The first one is Deflect Missiles. So with this ability, we get this at 3rd level and we can use our reaction. So starting at 3rd level, you can use your reaction to deflect or catch a missile when you are hit by a ranged weapon attack. When you do so, the damage you take from the attack is reduced by 1d10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your monk level. If you reduce that damage to 0, you can catch the missile if it is small enough for you to hold in one hand and you have at least one hand free. If you do catch that missile in this way, you can spend 1 key point to make a ranged attack with the weapon or the piece of ammunition you just caught as part of the same reaction. So if you take a look here, we actually have this on our attack actions. We have the deflect missiles as a reaction. And then it has the 1d10 plus 6, which we can prevent, and then the deflect missiles attack. So that has a range of 20 feet and a plus 5 to hit. So kind of a neat little thing, and hopefully our Dungeon Master will help set us up for a few of these deflect missiles, because these are really cool to have happen in combat. And the other monk ability that we get at 3rd level is Key Fueled Attack. So if we spend 1 key point or more as part of our action on our turn, then we can make 1 attack with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon as a bonus action. So if we're doing something that causes a key point using our action to do so, then we can also use an unarmed strike for a bonus action. Pretty straightforward. So that's all I have for the Way of the Astral Self Monk at level 3. Let's advance our character and get another feat at level 4. So here we are back on D&D Beyond with Jordy, our Plasmoid Way of the Astral Self Monk. And as you can see, our armor class is now 17, and that is because I took the Fey Touched feat. Now the Fey Touch feat is going to give us a +1 to our wisdom. So our wisdom is now an 18, which gives us a +4 modifier. That's going to affect our armor class. It's going to affect our skills such as insight. And when we use our arms of the astral self, that'll now give us a +6 on those athletics checks. And it also increases the DC that opponents would need to make against any of our effects. Now, in addition to the +1 that we get to our wisdom from the Fey Touch feat, we also get the ability to cast Misty Step once per day. And for those of you not familiar, this is a spell that we can use as a bonus action, requires only a verbal component, and allows us to teleport 30 feet. One of my favorite spells in the game. The other spell that we get to choose a 1st level spell, and I've chosen Hex. So as a bonus action, we can target a creature within 90 feet, and we can put a curse or a hex on them. So until the spell ends, we're going to deal an extra 1d6 of necrotic damage to the target whenever we hit it with an attack. Also, we get to choose one ability when we cast a spell, and the target is going to have disadvantage on that ability check made with the chosen ability. Now, so there's 2 things happening here. The first one is if we're using our martial arts ability and we're hitting once with our short sword with our attack and then once with our bonus action as an unarmed strike, then we're going to get an additional d6 of necrotic damage for each of those hits. The second thing is you'll notice the target has disadvantage on an ability check made with the chosen ability. So if we choose strength, let's go back to our grappling ability. Now we have the ability to hex an opponent and give them disadvantage on their strength checks. So now when we do those opposed athletics and we have our arms of the astral self activated, we will have advantage on our athletics wisdom checks because we are a plasmoid creature, and they're going to have disadvantage on those checks because they are under the hex. So this is really going to intensify that grapple, and if we get a creature in that grapple, there is going to be little chance for them to escape. But of course, just as a reminder, this is using the 2022 D&D 5e rules. These may change when 1D&D comes out in 2024. So be sure to check with your most recent player's handbook. Now, in addition to the Fey Touch feat, we're also going to get 2 baseline monk abilities. The first one is Quicken Healing, and this is an optional ability that was introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And this reads, as an action, you can spend 2 key points and roll a martial arts die. You regain a number of hit points equal to the number rolled plus your proficiency bonus. So at 4th level, we have 4 key points, so we can spend 2 of those to activate this. Our martial arts die is currently a D4, so by using our Quicken Healing, we can regain a D4 plus 2 of hit points. The second ability as a baseline monk is Slow Fall. Beginning at 4th level, you can use a reaction when you fall to reduce any falling damage you take by an amount equal to 5 times your monk level. So using this reaction, we're currently 4th level. 5 times 4 is 20 points, so we can absorb 20 points of falling damage. That's always great. Feather Falling is one of my favorite spells, so I'm glad to have this kind of in a little bit of an effect with an ability here as a 4th level monk. So that's all I have for us as a level 4 Way of the Astral Self Monk. Let's advance to level 5 and see what's next in store for Jordy. So here we are back on D&D Beyond with Jordy, our Plasmoid Way of the Astral Self Monk. And now that we're 5th level, we're going to get all kinds of bonuses. Our proficiency bonus is now a +3, and our martial arts die is now a +6. So let's take a look at some of our attacks and how they have changed. As we can see here, our short sword is now a D6 a hit, but it still only does a D6 +3 of piercing damage. However, if we were to just use our unarmed strike, that is now a +6 to hit, and now it does a D6 +3 of bludgeoning damage. You can also see that our arms of the Astral Self, if they are activated, our wisdom attacks are just slightly better than our dexterity attacks, giving us a +7 as far as the hit and a +4 for damage. And if we need to make range attacks, we still have Toll the Dead, which is now a DC 15 saving throw for whoever we're targeting, and is 2d8 of necrotic damage. And don't forget too that we still have 2 fantastic spells that we can cast once per day. We have Hex, where we can do extra necrotic damage and help us with our grapples. And we have Shield of Faith. We can use that if we're going to be in tough combat where we're going to need a tougher armor class. Now, as a 5th level monk, we're going to get 3 baseline features. The first one is Focused Aim, and this is an optional ability that was picked up in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and this reads as follows. When you miss with an attack roll, you can spend 1 to 3 key points to increase your attack roll by 2 for each key point that you spend, potentially turning the miss into a hit. And just a reminder, at 5th level, we have 5 key points that we can spend, and those refill after a short rest. So if we just barely miss, maybe we roll a 14, we needed a 15 to hit, we can spend a key point and we can get those extra 2 points to make sure that we hit. The second ability we get, and probably most important, is the extra attack. Beginning at 5th level, you can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. So now we can officially use our first attack as a special melee attack to grapple, and then we can use our second attack for an actual unarmed strike, and then our bonus action as the martial arts is concerned for a bonus action unarmed strike. Now, of course, if we decide to grapple a target or a creature, the only thing that comes out of the grappled condition, at least at this point in time of 5th edition D&D, is that the grappled creature's speed is going to become 0, and they're not going to be able to gain any benefit from any bonus to its speed. And in addition to that, we can also start to use our move action to be able to move a grappled creature and drag them with us. But of course, there's a few other rules included in that. Be sure to check out your player's handbook if you want to know more about grappling. And then our final ability that we get at level 5 is probably one the monk is most well known for and extremely powerful, and that is the Stunning Strike. Starting at 5th level, you can interfere with the flow of ki in an opponent's body. When you hit another creature with a melee weapon attack, you can spend 1 key point to attempt a stunning strike. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or be stunned until the end of turn. So if we're attacking with our short sword and we hit, we can spend 1 key, and that is going to stun the creature. Now, as far as the stunned condition is concerned, a stunned creature is incapacitated, it cannot move, and can speak only falteringly. The creature automatically fails any strength or dexterity saving throws, and attack rolls against the creature have advantage. And of course, incapacitated means that a creature that is in this condition cannot take actions or reactions. So the stunning strike is absolutely amazing for the monk, and we definitely want to get our wisdom up as high as we can. At this current level, we have a DC 15, and again, if they fail that Constitution saving throw, they're going to be stunned until the end of our next turn. And that just means that all of our allies are going to have an easier time attacking them. So that's it for us at level 5. At level 6, we're going to get some more unique abilities for the Way of the Astral Self Monk. So here we are back on D&D Beyond with our level 6 Plasmoid Monk, Jordy. Now, as you can see, we now have a walking speed of 45 feet because at 6th level, our unarmored speed increases by another 5 feet. Again, this is only active as long as we're not wearing armor or a shield. As a Plasmoid, no problem whatsoever. Now we do get 2 other abilities at this level. The first one is going to be Key Empowered Strikes. So starting at 6th level, your unarmored strikes count as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. Very good if you're fighting a creature that can't be harmed except for magical weapons. The second is one of our Astral Self abilities, and this is called Visage of the Astral Self. So this reads as follows. You can summon the visage of your astral self as a bonus action or as part of the bonus action you take to activate Arms of the Astral Self. You can spend 1 key point to summon this visage for 10 minutes. It vanishes early if you are incapacitated or you die. So our Arms of the Astral Self, we got at 3rd level, take a bonus action and 1 key point. Now, as part of that bonus action, activating those, we can spend an additional key point, so that'd be 2 total, and we'll have both the Arms of the Astral Self activated and the Visage of the Astral Self activated. But let's see what the Visage is going to do for us. So this spectral visage is going to cover our face like a helmet or a mask, and we get to determine its appearance. Since my character's name is Jordy and I have an engineer on a spaceship in mind, perhaps I'll have like the Jordy LaForge visor going across my Plasmoid's face. I think that would be pretty cool. Now, while this is present, we're going to get 3 benefits. The first one is Astral Sight. You can see normally in darkness, both magical and non-magical, to a distance of 120 feet. That is absolutely amazing. I love that. Wisdom of the Spirit. You have advantage on Wisdom Insight and Charisma Intimidation checks. And then finally, Word of the Spirit. When you speak, you can direct your words to a creature of your choice that you can see within 60 feet of you, making it so only that creature can hear you. Alternatively, you can amplify your voice so that all creatures within 600 feet can hear you. So I think with Visage of the Astral Self, this ability is going to play more into exploration and role-playing, especially in exploration with the ability to use that Astral Sight. Again, this is going to last for 10 minutes, so if we need to see through some type of magical darkness, we have this. If we're trying to intimidate someone or trying to ascertain on their intentions, we've got the Wisdom, and of course the Word of the Spirit if we want to make a booming voice heard so that everyone can hear us, or just so that one person, then we can activate this and use it in that manner. So some really neat abilities, but I don't see us having this active very often in combat. So that's going to do it for us at level 6. Let's advance to level 7 and get some more monk abilities. So here we are with Jordy at level 7. Now there's not a lot going on at level 7, but we do get 2 fairly decent abilities. The first one is Evasion. At 7th level, your instinctive agility lets you dodge out of the way of certain area effects, such as a blue dragon's lightning breath or a fireball spell. When you are subjected to an effect that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw and only half damage if you fail. So that is fantastic. Not only that, but we are proficient in dexterity saving throws, so that's going to save our hide at least a time or two. I guarantee it. The second ability we get is Stillness of Mind. Starting at 7th level, you can use your action to end one effect on yourself that is causing you to be charmed or frightened. We definitely don't want to be charmed and fighting against our own party, so being able to use our Stillness of the Mind is going to be of great benefit. And we definitely don't want to run away either, so ending frightened is going to be equally as good. Now that's all I have for us at level 7. Let's advance to level 8 and take another feat for Jordy. So here we are back on D&D Beyond with Jordy, our Plasmoid Way of the Astral Self Monk. Now we get an ability score improvement or a feat at level 8, and it was really tempting to take that +2 ability score modifier and put it into wisdom to max that out. But I decided to have more fun with abilities. I want to expand what Jordy can do in and out of combat. So I decided instead to pick a feat. Now you can see that our wisdom is at 19, so I am picking a feat that is going to give us a +1 to wisdom, and that is the Shadow Touch feat. So with this, we get the invisibility spell, and we get to cast that once per day. What I like about the invisibility spell is when we're squeezing through those tight areas as our plasmoid body and then getting on the other side, we can not only be stealthy with it because we're proficient in stealth with a +6, but now we can also be invisible. So we can squeeze through places, hopefully without even being detected, with our stealth and our invisibility. I absolutely love that. The other part of this is we get to pick a first level illusion or necromancy spell, and this is the reason that I have chosen this feat, and that is Disguise Self. Now this is an illusion spell that can allow us to seem 1 foot taller, shorter, we can be thinner, fatter, somewhere in between, but we can't change our body type. So we need to adopt a form that has the same basic arrangement of limbs. Otherwise, the extent of the illusion is up to you. So if you remember, we are a plasmoid ooze. We can use our shape self ability to take a humanoid type form with limbs and stuff like that. So if we wanted to patrol an area for an hour looking like a normal human or an elf or something along those lines, then we take a humanoid type appearance with our plasmoid and we're able to do so. We can put on this illusion with Disguise Self. But we can also do this in ooze form. If we're just a flat blob about the size of a treasure chest, we can basically look like a mimic. We can mimic a treasure chest or some type of furniture or things along those lines. So this really opens the door for us to be able to put on a disguise. And I love this for a role-playing aspect of this character. Now, if we wanted to maximize the Disguise Self instead of taking the Shadow Touch feat, then we could take the Eldritch feat, and that would give us the Warlock's Invocation, the Masks of Many Faces, allowing us to disguise self as many times as we want. And also, we could maybe work with our Dungeon Master as we're working up to level 8. Perhaps it's possible to get a Hat of Disguise, which is a magic item that also allows us to cast Disguise Self. And if that were the case, we could have the Hat of Disguise Self, and then perhaps we would take that 20 wisdom here or look at another feat. Some very common feats for monks includes the Crusher feat or maybe the Mobile feat. Both very good. But that's all I have for us here. Now we can become invisible once per day, and we can disguise ourselves either as a different type of a humanoid, a human or an elf, or we can look like a treasure chest or a piece of furniture. I absolutely love it. But let's move up to level 9 and see what's next in store for this character. So here we are back on D&D Beyond with Jordy, our Plasmoid Way of the Astral Self Monk. Now I'm going to go ahead and combine level 9 and 10 because there's not a whole lot going on. Now we do get a proficiency bonus increase. It is now a +4, and all of our saving throws, our skills, and our attacks have been modified. So just taking a quick peek at those, you can see that our athletics wisdom check with our Arms of the Astral Self is now a +8. Our stealth is a +7. Our attacks with our Arms of the Astral Self a +8 as well. Our saving throw DC is now up to a 16, and a lot of great stuff going on. Now, our level 9 ability is an improvement to our unarmored movement. At 9th level, you gain the ability to move along vertical surfaces and across liquids on your turn without falling during your move. Now, at level 9, our walking speed is 45 feet, and then at level 10, it's going to be 50 feet. And if you include taking the dash action, then we can move 100 feet. So if we're trying to run across maybe a pond or trying to go along a vertical surface like a wall, we can do that with 100 feet of movement on our turn. I don't think I've ever seen an ooze move that fast. That's absolutely amazing. Now, our level 10 ability is actually a static ability called Purity of Body. At 10th level, your mastery of the ki flowing through you makes you immune to disease and poison. It's always nice to have some immunities. So that's basically it for us at levels 9 and 10. We have an increased walking speed. We can now walk across vertical surfaces and liquids as a plasmoid. I find that absolutely fascinating. Let me know what you think of it and some shenanigans that you could come up with for this character. But in the meantime, we're going to take up another notch and go to a level 11 character. So here we are as a level 11 monk. First, let's talk about our monk increase with regards to our martial arts die. So we're actually going to now roll a d8. So if we take a look at our attack options, our short sword, because it is a monk weapon, now rolls a d8 plus 3 of piercing damage. Our unarmed strikes are also rolling a d8 with regards to damage. So we're just getting that much better in combat. Now, for needs of a ranged attack, we still have Toll the Dead, which is a DC 16 Wisdom saving throw, but it now does 3d8 of necrotic damage at this level. Now at level 11, we get our next Astral Self ability for the Astral Self Monk, and this one is the body of the Astral Self. So when you have both your Astral Arms, which we got at level 3, and our Astral Visage, which we got at level 6, summoned, you can cause the body of your Astral Self to appear, no action required. This spectral body covers your physical form like a suit of armor, connecting the arms and the visage. You determine its appearance. Now, once we have that there, and notice it doesn't take any action or ki to be able to enable this, we can use deflect energy, and that is when you take acid, cold, fire, force, lightning, or thunder damage, you can use your reaction to deflect it. When you do so, the damage you take is reduced by a d10 plus our wisdom modifier, which at this point is a plus 4, so that's at least 5 points of damage. The other ability we get is Empowered Arms. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a target with the arms of the Astral Self, you can deal extra damage to the target equal to your martial arts die. Now, if we were to go back and take a look at our attacks, we have the potential for causing a lot of damage. Let's say that we hit with our arms of the Astral Self, just using an unarmed attack. We would be able to do a plus 8 to hit, and then a d8 plus 4 of regular damage, plus an extra d8, which is our martial arts die at level 11. If we follow that up with a bonus action, which is an unarmed strike, again with one of our astral arms, then that's going to be another d8 plus 3 of damage, followed up by another d8 of damage. And then if we take our hex and we have that enabled, not only do we get the extra d8s from the body of the Astral Self, but then we also get these extra d6s for necrotic damage. So we have the potential of rolling our martial arts die, adding 4, rolling another martial arts die, adding that to the damage, and adding a d6 of necrotic damage from the hex. So there's a lot of damage that can be had. Not to mention, we still have our flurry of blows, and we still have our extra attack. So Jordy is going to be a fighting machine or fighting ooze at level 11. But that's all I have for this level. Let's advance to level 12 and take the next feat that's going to get our wisdom score to 20. So at level 12, we get another ability score improvement. Now I'm taking another half feat. So if you remember at level 4, we increased our wisdom by 1 with Fey Touch. At level 8, we increased our wisdom by 1 with Shadow Touch, Shadow Touch, and we increase our wisdom once again at level 12, and this time I am taking the Resilient feat. So basically this is going to give us a +1 to our wisdom, and we are now going to be proficient in wisdom saving throws. Take a look at that. We have a +9 to wisdom saves. I think at level 12, wisdom saving throws can be scary, so I have no problem whatsoever being a little bit boring at this level and taking that extra resilience to wisdom saving throws. Now, level 12 is where I'm going to end this video, but I do want to talk about the level 17 ability for the Astral Monk, and that is the Awakened Astral Self. So at level 17, our connection to the Astral Self is now complete, allowing you to unleash its full potential. As a bonus action, you can spend 5 key points to summon the arms, the visage, and the body of your astral self and awaken it for 10 minutes. The awakened ends early if you're incapacitated or if you die. Now, while our entire astral self has been awakened, we get 2 abilities. The first, Armor of the Spirit, we gain a +2 to bonus to our armor class. And taking a look back over at our character, we have an armor class of 18 at level 12. That might be even higher by then. So the +2 is going to at least put us at 20. And the other ability we get is the Astral Barrage. Whenever you use the extra attack feature to attack twice, you can instead attack 3 times if all of the attacks are made with your astral arms. So you can see here why I made Wisdom a priority, getting that up there, and that is because we're going to be using our astral arms to do a lot of attacking. And at 17th level, we'll get 3 attacks, and that is because we're using our astral arms to do so. So that is Jordy. This is my Plasmoid Way of the Astral Self Monk that I will be playing in a Spelljammer campaign. Now, if you want to play this character and want to play as a Plasmoid, but are not playing in a Spelljammer game, be sure to ask your Dungeon Master before you bring this character to the table. With all of that in mind, what did you think of this character build? And are there a few different options that you would do differently? And did I mess anything up? Did I get any of the rules wrong? Be sure to leave a comment below. Thank you very much for watching, and on to the next.